Tim Collins with Cullman Today. I'm out with a special guest and Cullman senatorial candidate, Jonathan McConnell. Jonathan, thanks for coming into Cullman.
Tim, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here today. We had a great group here at the Elks Lodge and just had a great opportunity to allow people to express their frustrations with the government and the direction of this country. And it was a pleasure to be here.
Folks who do not know, you are running against perennial incumbent Richard Shelby for the U.S. Senate seat. Can you break down the difference between you and the senator?
Well, there's a little bit of an age gap. I have a little bit more gray hair than he does, but I think right now there's people that are frustrated with the direction of this country. Richard Shelby is conservative only when it's a campaign. People want someone who's going to be conservative 365 days a year, 6 years at a time, not someone who's just going to be conservative when it's convenient for them. You look at Richard Shelby, he used to be a Democrat. He was a Democrat until the political winds in Alabama changed in 1994. And then he switched over so he could maintain a chairman's position on one of the committees. We need someone who's going to be a conservative all the time, who's going to represent our values here in Alabama, not just when it's election time.
Here's the thing: is that if Richard Shelby stays in office, he very much may well be the chairman of appropriations. And people ask me, well, how do you compete with that? I'm like, well, first of all, that terrifies me if Richard Shelby is chairman of appropriations.
I've been looking at national polls, state polls. And I think the conventional wisdom was Senator Shelby has it locked up, but I'm seeing poll numbers moving in large directions towards you. Can you speak to that?
Oh, absolutely. There's a fire in this country that people are sick of business as usual, and Richard Shelby's afraid of that. Richard Shelby released a poll that said he has nothing to worry about. Well, then that speaks to his fiscal irresponsibility. Look at all the spending that he's done. Look at all the billboards that are out there right now, the commercials that he's doing. Look up any conservative website and see how many of the Shelby ads that you have. If he's not worried, then he is continuing with his efforts of being fiscally irresponsible, which is why we need to get someone like that out of office.
Well, you're talking in your remarks about finances. You put $250,000 of your money basically out of your pocket, but you're going up against $18 million. How do you battle that giant?
Well, yes, I donated to my campaign $250,000. I did not loan it, I donated it because I knew that money's not going to be worth anything if we cannot get our spending under control. So I invested in the future of this country. But the other side of that as well is Richard Shelby, he may have $19 million, but he cannot buy this election. All the establishment may have the money in this race, but the people have the power. And when on March 1st, the people are going to be it's a referendum against Washington, D.C. And people are going to bring Richard Shelby home because everyone is frustrated. A few minutes ago when I spoke here at this venue, I asked, there were 100 people in this room, and I asked them, if you're satisfied with the direction of this country, raise your hand. There was not a single person in this room raising their hand. People are sick of it. They're ready to bring him home.
Well, you're right about that. Not a soul raised their hands. Since we're on the subject of Cullman, let's bring it down to the local level for a minute. Mm-hmm. In Cullman County, there's a youth movement. We've got the youngest sheriff in the state, the youngest coroner, and if not, certainly one of the youngest state representatives. You're a young man, 33. How do you balance inexperience with experience against Shelby?
Well, experience is one thing, but let's look at the experience that he has. Look at the experience. He's taken our budget our debt from $700 billion to $19 trillion. If you were on my board of directors at my company, I would have fired you years ago. We need people who are going to be passionate leaders. I haven't seen passion out of Richard Shelby in his entire life. We need someone who's going to go up there and stand up against the Republican establishment. He says that he fights Obama every single day. Win one time. That's my request. Just win once. We need someone who's going to win and fight not just Barack Obama, but the Republican establishment like Mitch McConnell and the people who are pushing down regulations that are killing small businesses.
And so we have people that are up there, and why are we having, my problem with Mitch McConnell is that you're going to ask me to vote on something that's 2,000 pages long, and then you're going to give me 48 hours to read it. You're going to be able to get away with that one time with me, and then never again, I can promise you that. Because why are we putting a 2,000-page bill? Whether it's Kate's Law or whether it's anything else, why do we have 2,000-page bills at all? Why don't we separate it out? Why don't we have 2,001-page bills? I bet you we get a whole lot more passed at that point. But we keep shoving pork into a lot of these projects. We keep adding these regulations in that benefit some companies, but not others. That's called crony capitalism. If you're okay with that, I'm not your guy. Let me tell you that right now. But if you're okay with, and if you ask me, hey, well, what are you going to give me if you go to Washington, D.C.? I'm not going to give you anything. I'm going to let you keep more of what you got. But do we need more federal buildings? The new Tuscaloosa courthouse is great. It's beautiful. It's a $70 million building that went over budget by like 80%. But here's the thing. How many big box buildings are empty in this state? Why do we not have innovative thinkers out there who are going to say, you know what? There's an old Circuit City in our state, or we just shut down how many, 14 or 15 Walmarts in this state? I bet you could throw up some sheetrock, subdivide that, and we could have a courthouse in there, and we could save our future generations money. But no one's thinking outside the box, because once again, common sense is not a common virtue. Richard Shelby may be able to claim that for every dollar that we pay in federal income tax, he brings back $1.80. Senator, every single senator gets to say that, and that's why we're $19 trillion in debt. But right now, what would happen if we took our corporate income tax down to zero? What would happen if we administered either a flat tax or a fair tax? I'm largely agnostic between the two of those. But we simplified our regulations to where our tax code, you didn't have to hire an accountant, and I apologize for the accountants out there, but you didn't have to hire an accountant for $2,000, $3,000 a year to do your taxes and keeping up with that burden of paperwork. If you made it a flat tax or a fair tax, what would that do? When Chairman Greenspan was asked that question in 2004, if we had that policy and we did that, they asked him how many years would it take to bring back the corporations and make America the economic hub of the world. You know what Alan Greenspan said in 2004? A couple of years is what they were thinking. He said probably about 4 months.
Last question. You got folks to talk to here. How can folks who have heard your message here and this morning's event get in touch with you?
They can go on our website, which is www.mcconnell2016.com. Once again, that's www.mcconnell2016.com. Or they can check us out on Facebook, which is Jonathan McConnell 2016. Be honored to have them.
Mr. McConnell, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim. Pleasure to be here.